Okay. Okay. Well, I have no idea if the previous footage that I was filming on my way to church yesterday is even saved, because as I was filming, I got a warning. Basically, my camera just died. And fun fact, I got this camera in Japan while I was there in Tokyo. And I didn't know this, but a Japanese camera does not have the, universal language options, which means you cannot switch the interface language to anything other than Japanese. So when the screen goes black and you see an exclamation point and then a bunch of Japanese, you're like, cool. Let me just whip out my phone and use the translation app to take a photo. It's a whole process. And don't even get me started on programming my camera. I've started memorizing symbols and memorizing where things are, but I woke up this morning looking like I was a little bit punched in the eyes. The dark circle under my eyes were legit. So I put on some maquillage today to try to distract from that. I kind of had fun. I don't know if you can see, but I did my eyeliner. I don't think it's even, but I was reading Genesis, so reading the Bible, and I had to read a couple parts several times, because initially when things sort of come through for me, I'm filtering everything through my existing biases, essentially, as everyone does. So even people today who are interpreting the Bible, of course, are human, and so therefore are interpreting through their perspective, their knowledge, their research, etc. I, did not grow up going to church. I am not baptized. I have pretty much no Christian influence in my life whatsoever. And so the only thing that I ever see about the church, which again are reasons why I never actually wanted to participate, are things like, the Catholic Church having a ring of, child pedophilia and pederasts and rapists, and it's all covered up by the church. Even just things like Jesus freaks. We kind of know what that is, and we're kind of I'm good. It feels a bit cultish. Things like, the Vatican is essentially its own country and has its own laws, and, I don't know if they pay taxes or not. I mean, no religious organization does, so even that, I'm okay, weird. It just feels like religion as a whole has really set themselves up to corrupt a man or woman's heart, and that's a big reason why I've sort of steered clear of it for my entire life. That being said, even as a kid would pray to God. Even as a kid, I didn't really understand Jesus very much. I mean, I knew that he died on the cross and the whole thing, but even taking Jesus out of it, I always prayed to God. And, I was one of those kids that was when things were really bad, you kind of get on your knees and you would pray. So, I've been praying to God when shit hits the fan, so to speak, in my life, but never any other time. And so I've always intuitively, believed in that. The thing that was another sort of issue for me, and I touched on this in my first ever video, is this premise that humanity as a whole is just a sinner. And if you do not sort of repent, and you do not admit this, and you do not also transform your heart with Jesus, caveat, I'm new to this, so if I'm messing this up and I'm not exactly getting it right according to the Bible and Christianity, thank you for the grace and letting me sort of stumble forward here and learn as I go. Bear with me, but this is sort of this is my journey of how I'm understanding it and how it's resonating or not resonating for me. And so that said, this sort of notion that we're all just, capital S sinners, and that if we don't follow the path of Jesus, that we're just, all condemned to hell, and that we will not get to go to heaven. Oh, the fairy is here. I don't know if you can hear the big horn. And so I was really struggling with that. And so I finally finished Genesis of the Bible. And so where it starts with is Adam and Eve. So I think we've all heard of the story of Adam and Eve, and this is how I make sense of it. Adam and Eve are living in the Garden of Eden, okay? They're living in paradise in perfect harmony with God. They are made in the perfect image of God. It's like a perfectly tuned instrument. Everything is in perfect harmony. They are also created with free will, thankfully, and, free choice. The one thing that he says is whatever you do, do not eat from the tree of knowledge, which is the understanding and awareness of good and evil. And of course they do. With that knowledge of good versus evil, now we're introduced to, instead of like total harmony, bliss, sort of heaven on earth, paradise on earth, we're now introduced to polarity and also like the existence of evil. Like we already knew what good was, but now we know what evil is. And so this is where we introduce the fall. So they fall out of the Garden of Eden. And when they fall, from my perspective and from my, previous indoctrination through, like spirituality and mysticism and, frequency and all this stuff, which like I still very firmly have a hold on, is they were living in the Garden of Eden in a much higher frequency, or said another way, a parallel universe, still on planet Earth, and then they fall into a much lower frequency where evil does exist. Enter, this is where we all are. And in this lower frequency, they probably have a level of like naivete. Like if you come from perfect paradise and you're not familiar with evil, I think that you wouldn't be able to grasp just how nefarious and just how subtle evil can be. And what I mean by that is, so Adam and Eve has fallen. We're now on earth, okay? What we all consider to be this world. They have two sons, Abel and Cain. Abel and Cain are the first example of this sort of evil operating through humanity. And what happens is that Cain ends up murdering his brother because he's jealous. And, there's a bit of sibling rivalry and there's resentment building. And so you think about like resentment, rivalry, jealousy, like this is what I mean by these like incredibly subtle ways that evil can start to infiltrate your life. It just shut off again. Okay, is God, Jesus, or Satan trying to prevent me from speaking because it just feels like it's one thing after another and I'm getting really frustrated. So I am now holding the camera. I have opened the windows to see if I can get better ventilation, and I tried to, through my whole translate situation, adjust the internal temperature setting. I think that's what the issue is. I don't know. Like I, was in the flow there and now I don't recall, but focus. Adam and Eve, they fall into what is known as this earth. We now have the understanding they eat from the tree of knowledge, which is the understanding of good versus evil. Where they come from is pure good, pure harmony. Now, in their naivete, they are experiencing what evil actually can be, and they probably still are like, doopy-doopy-doo, sounds good to me, and no one's burned it at the stake yet. More to come. And so they have two sons, Abel and Cain, and as I said, Cain ends up murdering Abel. And through the sort of overpowering resentment and jealousy and sibling rivalry that develops, and there's a moment in the Bible where God says to Cain, if you do good, all will be good. But, if you don't sort of heed my warning here, evil is knocking at your door. And he essentially is like, yeah, okay, moving on, and kills him anyway. And so this is the first moment where I understand, like, okay, it's not that we're all sinners. It's not that like we're all bad people. It's that where we come from is perfection. But in this world, evil is sort of so prevalent. It's so easy. It's so incestuous and subtle and nefarious. Like it's so, the devil's in the details. It's so in the minutia. We don't really see it coming, is I guess what I'm saying. And you mix with the fact, we also have a reptilian brain that really kind of can drive us to, one, it can easily be hijacked, as we know, and two, it just like can really drive us again for more quote unquote sinful behavior. And so when I mix in the fact that, from my perspective, in this world is where the devil is working, you know what I mean? This is sort of the devil's domain. When you think about something as subtle as like deep resentment and jealousy and then acting on that to kill, I'm starting to understand. I'm like, okay, it's not that we're all born innately bad. It's that the deck is so stacked against us. Truly, with our sort of biology and with the current environment. And what I mean by that is like, look no further than your local leader. Okay, I swear it's getting too hot. It's getting too hot. It's going to shut down here. I'm going to get online. Look no further than, pop culture, celebrity worship, your political leaders, sometimes the head of churches, as I was mentioning. Like, there are so many borderline evil, let's go to war, let's kill our neighbor, we disagree with the left versus the right, let's murder people, let's assassinate. Like, it's just, I feel like the world has lost its mind in many ways, and I think a lot of people would agree to that. And I don't think that that's our higher selves, working. That to me is the devil. And so that helps me understand it's going to be incredibly hard for you to find your highest glory, to sort of live is in the highest vibration as you possibly can, if you will, to fulfill your soul's purpose and really tap into where we come from without the help of Jesus and God, because everything else is against you. And that helps me wrap my head around it a lot more and makes me more likely to go to church more and investigate more and really get into this a lot more. So hopefully that made sense. I'm like so cognizant that my that my camera is telling me, like, warning, we're getting a little hot here. It's a bit of a hot topic. So I kind of want to wrap it up, but I'm going to go run some errands, let my camera cool, and then if I have more thoughts, I will chime in more. But this really resonated for me because, I've spent my whole life not following Jesus and God and sort of just, like I said, praying when things are like really, really bad. And I can definitely attest to, I think I understand evil and I understand the devil way more than I understand God. Way more. Like, you think about, your childhood trauma, the trauma of the world, the way that we're falling apart at the seams, the way that everything is so divisive. Everyone who seems to be in power is manipulating us to hate each other versus actually looking at the real issues and forgiving and thinking about utopia. Every piece of media, every movie you've ever watched is painting a dystopian AI hellscape instead of a utopia. Like, there just is no movies about programming us to think that a beautiful world and a beautiful society is possible. And I'm telling you, it's gotta be. Because I feel like I've got a PhD in the devil and I know jack shit about Jesus. So I'm excited. Sorry for swearing, God. One thing at a time here. We're not, one thing at a time. We're only on week 2 here. So I'm going to keep reading the Bible. And as more insights come through, I'm going to speak about those. And I could go on forever, but my camera's getting hot. So thanks for listening if I don't jump back on. And we'll see what happens for next week. Oh, and of course I went to church. It was great. The best part is the singing. I mean, if you just go for the singing and the beautiful words and the hymns, if you just go for that, I'm telling you, even that, it opens something up in you. I didn't almost cry this time, so that's a good sign. I was like, let's go, girl. I love it. Okay, thanks for listening. I think we got through this with the camera overheating, and more to come. Maybe not. Okay, bye.